Hi, and welcome to the Knitpicks podcast. This is Stacey. I'm the outreach director at Knitpicks, and I'm here with my friend Lee. Hi, Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee. I'm the books and patterns graphic designer for knitpicks. How are you, Stacey?
Good. It's just coming up on the holidays and just getting ready for all of that. And we're going to have like a big roundtable at the end of the podcast with some of our coworkers talking about gift knitting. And I don't think I'm really doing much this year, but I am doing some gift sewing.
Same.
Yeah. It's just something I've been doing. I think I've just been very selfish with my knitting because I knit so much for work related purposes that knitting, I've taken it back as being my hobby and like something I do for myself when I'm not working. So I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes sense in my head. I don't know if it makes sense when I say it out loud.
Yeah, I've kind of gone a little bit back and forth between like spending a lot of time knitting and like not spending very much time knitting the last several years, which has resulted in having like many sweaters on the needles that are unfinished.
Oh, yeah,
and so my goal this whole holiday season, winter season, is to just get some of these sweaters finished so I can wear them and just like focus on all the sweaters for myself. Selfish sweater knitting. So yeah, I have some other handmade things planned and I was thinking about, well, during that roundtable that you haven't heard yet, I was thinking dishcloths are a good idea. They are very useful. I might change my whole mind about everything and knit some dishcloths. Maybe. Ooh. I don't think anyone in my family listens to this, so I think that's fine.
I meant to bring this
undecided.
Up. The thing with dishcloths, like I give them to my mom, but she has a tendency, like if I make her some really nice, like what I like to do, what I did for a while was making like these spa cloths, like in shine or in super nice cotton to use on your face. But my mom doesn't use them. She has them nicely folded up in her bathroom and like on display. And I'm like, no, I made them for you to use. And she's definitely more now because she knits a lot of dishcloths. And in fact, I have a pattern on the site that released when this goes up about a week ago, I think, that she actually knit the samples, the dishcloth samples for me because she likes knitting dishcloths now. But so I think making dishcloths for my mom is like out of the question right now. So I think I'm going to be, you brought up finishing sweaters. I was actually just thinking earlier today, I'm like, I remember talking about this last year on the podcast about this woolen pine sweater that I started last Christmas. I think I'm almost done with it, but I haven't worked on it for several months. So I'll make that my goal to finish I want to finish it by the holidays so it will not be on the needles when it goes into 2024. So
nice. Yeah. I don't want to hold myself to anything, but I'm hoping I can have like 3 sweaters that are currently in progress finished before 2024. Because I have 3 that are...
You're not knitting 3 completely.
No, I have one... Well, so I can just...
Yeah. Go into what are you working on?
My Andi and Treasure cardigan that I've talked about forever. I seamed the shoulders and one side of the sleeve, the shoulder... I mean, the sleeve to body seam and the sleeve seam yesterday. So I just have to sew the other side sleeve, and then I have to do the button band. The fit... I'm a little bit worried about it. I'm a little worried it's too big. It like wants to fall off my shoulders. So I might add some like short rows to the whole like neck button band. Make it kind of like if it was a shawl collar, but like not meant to fold over as a shawl collar, just meant to like add some fabric so it won't fall off my shoulders. So, but that's all it needs. So that should be done by 2024 for sure. That might even be done by the time this podcast airs. We'll see. And then my Swish Pops cardigan, I'm just need to do the front panel. I mean, I have quite a bit. I have to do both front panels and seam and everything. But once I finish the Andi and Treasure one, I'm going to focus on the Swish Pops one. And so that one might be done. And then I have Okay, so the one we talked about most last week, the one that was
That's what I was waiting for.
yeah. So the Hawthorne held double improvised designed on the needles sweater that started out as a movie sweater, and now it has this cabled yoke. So I am a few inches now into the cabled yoke plan, maybe 3 or 4 inches. And I've as I talked about last week, if you didn't hear or don't remember, no, I don't expect you to remember everything I ramble on about. I'm doing this improvised thing where I'm kind of introducing one cable at a time, and so every time I introduce a cable, it's pulling the stitches together, so it's kind of acting like a decrease. And once all the cables have been introduced, then there'll be cables all the way around, and then I'll start decreasing more for the yoke. So right now I'm at the point where more than half of the cables have been introduced. So I'm getting pretty close to all of the cables being in place and then decreasing in to the neck. I do have both sleeves I have to knit after that. So I don't know if I'm going to have all 3 done by 2024. We'll see. But I'm hoping to get the yoke done soon because I'm just really excited to see how it goes and see if it works. Right now it's kind of like roughly looking as it's pulling in all those cables, but I'm really hoping it blocks out and looks okay.
I'm sure it will.
On the
I'm
body.
excited. I got to see a little sneak peek of it, so I was very excited.
Yeah,
so.
well, I do have it up as a Ravelry project, and I'm posting photos along the way as I go. So we'll link to that in the show notes if you want to see. And then I had mentioned last week that I was getting this Hawthorne DK sweater figured out so that when I went to a movie theater, it could be my movie theater knitting. Well, not only did I get it figured out and cast on, I actually went to 2 movies last weekend, one Saturday and one Sunday. One of them was 2.5 hours. The other one was 3.5 hours, which I'm sure you know what one that is because the other one was 3.5 hours. So I had a lot of movie knitting time. So not only is it figured out, but it's like significantly started. I wasn't able to get a good, easy for me DK gauge in the Hawthorne DK, not at least in like a sweater kind of fabric. I was just getting a worsted gauge. Like that's what worked best for me with the way that I knit. So I went with the worsted weight pattern. I went with the 10 show pullover pattern, which has a little bit of color work at the bottom, which I did between movies. And then it has a color work yoke, and it has a little bit of color work on the sleeves.
Be very impressive if you could do it during the movies.
You know what I did do it in the first movie, though, was the 1x1 rib.
Oh.
I did like 3 or 4 rounds of 1x1 rib in the first movie, and I confirmed my rule that I should only knit stockinette in movies because I did mess up several times, and I was like a bit distracted by trying to feel, because as long as you're going 1, 1, 1, 1 and not stopping at all, but then if you stop for a minute because there's a part of the movie that distracts you and you stop knitting, then you're like, wait, was that a knit or purl? And then you gotta feel, does that feel like a knit or purl? And then it gets kind of distracting, and then I messed up a few times. I'd go back and fix it later, which is pretty easy to go back and fix later. You just tink down. You don't have to rip out your knitting or anything. So it was fine.
Done that many times, especially when I'm knitting socks. I try to make sure that when I'm doing my socks during movies in the theater, that I have the ribbing done, because there has been so many times where I've just been like, and I'm like trying to feel like it'll be of course it'll be like at the darkest part of the movie, and I'll be trying to feel, I'm like, is this a knit or a purl?
Yeah, sometimes I hold it up to the screen to try to see. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to do this again. Just plain stockinette only. Yeah, so then I did the ribbing in the first movie, and then that night when I got home, I did the color work, which was like a 12-row little strip of color work. And then I was all set to do the second movie, just the plain stockinette, and now I'm joining my second color, and I'm going to do a different color for each movie. And then each row, when I join the new color, I'm going to do 1 row of knit 1, slip 1 around the whole round, which I did for, do you remember my Rainbow Muse cardigan I knit years ago?
I love that sweater.
Yeah, so that's what I did with that. I did 1 row of knit 1, slip 1. And what that does is it makes it kind of a blurry blend between it's not like a harsh line. So if you're doing stripes that are meant to be a little bit of like a gradient ombre kind of, which is what I'm doing for the Hawthorne DK, because this pattern I'm knitting, the Tensho, it's not meant to be striped. It's just meant to be a solid color. So I'm doing like 5 different colors of Hawthorne DK that kind of blend nicely into each other. So I'm just doing a little blendy stripe thing up to the top, and then not sure on the yoke if I'm going to do just one color. And then, well, I'm using like the gold as like the color work contrast. And then I might continue to like kind of stripe behind the gold as like the main color.
I can't wait to see it. I
Anyway,
love the colors.
Looking great so far. It's Hawthorne DK. It's gorgeous.
Your Hawthorne DK yarn was sitting on your desk. My desk is right next to Lee's at the office, and I can just like look at it when I'm standing at my desk. If I'm standing up, I can just look at it and like, oh, those colors look so pretty.
Yeah, it's good yarn.
Yeah, I've been last time I talked about my Hawthorne DK socks, and I finished those. And then I immediately cast on for another pair of Hawthorne DK socks. That is because I'm doing it for this is a sample for many months in the future. So I need to make the real sample, because I don't know. I like knitting socks and I like Hawthorne DK. So, but my plan is, this is our last podcast, actually. We probably should have announced that at the beginning. This will be our last podcast until mid-January. The third Wednesday in January, I believe, is the next podcast. So I think actually we're talking about stuff we want to get done before 2024 is a good subject. So I just looked at, I know I do really want to finish. I mentioned it earlier, but the Wool and Pine Deep Winter Coat, I really want to finish it. It's in Wool of the Andes in Icicle Heather, which is one of my favorite colors. It's held double, so it doesn't take very long. It's just been, I put it down and I'm like, I put it down like at the end of winter last year. And I'm like, I'm not going to wear this for like months. So why should I work on this? So
it's the cable jacket pattern.
Yeah.
I remember when she was on the podcast, like, a year?
Over a year ago.
Yeah, we talked about that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that sweater so much. And like looking at it again, I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna definitely get that out and I'm gonna finish that by the time we talk to you again, listeners.
Yeah.
And then I want to finish my I know I've pronounced it incorrectly. I think you told me how to pronounce it correctly. I was calling it the Ventisca, but I don't think that's correct.
Ventisca? I think you're adding a syllable in there.
I do that. It's one of those things where if I haven't heard the actual word, I just kind of make it up in my head, and then that's how it's pronounced. So apologies to Kristen Jencook, who is a designer, who is a lovely human, and I hope sorry I mispronounced that. But anyway, I want to finish that because I do love that so much. It's in twill. And then another project that I recently finished is we decide it'll probably be on the site in a couple of weeks. We'll probably at least post pictures. The mini kitty poof. It is a pattern that we've had for a long time. And I have knit many versions of it, but we decided to do a version in Fluff of the Andes. So it's so cute and fluffy.
It has fluff in the name. It's perfect for a cat.
And it is, and I don't know. This is just a random observation because everyone looks at me confused when I say it, but I always call like the stuffing that you put in toys, I always call it fluff. And I guess no one else does because everyone was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, fluff. Do we have any fluff here? Anyway, random aside. But anyway, so it's really cute. So you'll probably see my version and a couple other employees. We're going to knit some. So this goes along with, I know this must be on our socials, but Isabel had knit a giant support chicken. We'll definitely link the we'll link the pattern in the notes. And last time I was in the office, she had finished it, and it is glorious and so big. So my little kitty is going to look kind of puny next to this giant chicken. So
giant chicken, love it.
Yeah, it's. I believe her name is Camilla, named after Gonzo's favorite chicken from the Muppets, and yeah, it's I'm almost certain it's going to be on the socials at some point. So probably by the time this podcast airs. So if not, keep a lookout for a giant chicken on our Instagram feed.
I love knitting little toys and animals that are designed for a lightweight yarn.
Yep.
Or that have like a sample in the lightweight yarn and then knitting it in like a super bulky. So it's the same thing, but blown way up.
We did that.
I don't know about the chicken. I don't know if the chicken was designed for super bulky in the first place, but that's a fun thing.
I did that a couple years ago. We were going to do that. A bunch of us in the office. This was many, many years ago. We were going to knit a bunch of little toys in super bulky that were originally for fingering weight. So I knit this giant pickle, and I still have it because my coworkers like flaked. These are not no one who currently works at knitpicks now, but they all flaked, and I ended up with this giant pickle. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with a giant pickle?
Pickle.
I'm like, I don't. And the funny thing is, I don't even like pickles. I don't eat them, and I know. So I'm like, anyway. And it's still here. It's still in the box because it just was on my desk, and then we remodeled the office at the same time the pandemic started. So I took it home in a box because I had to clear off all my desk, and then I don't know what to do with it. Anyway,
well, I say bring it back, and it inspires a whole. Like maybe we all knit giant food and make a picnic feast of giant super bulky food.
Okay. All right. I will bring it back.
Maybe for next summer we do like a picnic photo shoot. If we end up doing it, you heard it. You heard the idea happen live on the podcast.
So we're going to do a quick little Axiom check-in, but not really because we're kind of recording this in advance. But the Axiom, the quote unquote due date is next week when this podcast goes up. I think Andi and I are gonna do it. I think we're gonna finish. We're gonna do it. We're pretty close.
I'm feeling good about my progress. I finished my body like I said I was going to in our last episode. Mm-hmm. And so I'm on my sleeves and I'm feeling good about it. It's gonna happen.
Nice. I have a lot of free time coming up. I'm taking a couple trips to see my family, so that gives me a lot of time to actually knit. So I believe it. I believe we can finish it by that date. So a couple of our coworkers have finished and brought them in, and they're beautiful. And I'm like, Carlene, our lovely Carlene, wore hers yesterday to the office, and it was gorgeous. And I need to finish it.
Yeah, seeing hers definitely helps like spur the motivation to knit it faster. Yeah. So I can wear mine too because it looked really good.
Yeah, it looked really great.
Cool. I'm excited to see what we have in about a month when we're back on the podcast. We can update on all the awesome progress we've made and all the sweaters we've finished. But
if we don't mention it, we didn't actually finish.
Yeah, these are our plans, but no one's holding us to them.
However, Axiom, I will guarantee that there will be a finished photo of all of us in our Axioms, whether we finish the project or not, because it is, and hopefully everyone will be there on the day we end up taking pictures, because the last few we've had a mannequin standing in for me and for you, I believe. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've had anyone standing in. It's just one of us two, apparently.
Yeah, so definitely check our Instagram to keep up with that, and keep on listening for us to talk about the other type of knitting besides sweaters that we may or may not be doing, gift knitting. We're going to have a roundtable with some of our coworker friends, all talking about our gift knitting kind of history and what we like knitting, some failures, fun stuff.
Lots of giggles.
Keep on listening for that. Yeah.
Welcome back. We're joined here with Jen, Regan, and Alena to do a little roundtable about gift knitting. Because we're recording before Christmas, we're not going to talk about any gifts that are being knit for this year, but we've all knit gifts in the past, and that's what we're going to discuss. Would everyone like to introduce themselves? Let's start with Jen.
I'm Jen. I do crochet outreach for our brand We Crochet. Hello, I'm Regan. I'm one of the graphic designers for knitpicks.
Hi, I'm Alena. I'm the Independent Designer Partnership Program Administrator, so IDP Administrator.
Elena's title is longer than mine.
I like saying all of it.
I'm Stacey. I am the Content IP and Outreach Director for Knitpicks.
Hey, I'm Lee. I'm the other Knitpicks graphic designer. I do the books and patterns.
And I am Andi. I am the content editor for Knitpicks and the producer of this podcast. So let's just jump straight into it. What is everyone's typical go-to project for gift knitting? Do you have a standby? Do you mix it up? Let's start with Jen.
So I have a standard, I try to make everybody a pair of socks a year or a pair of socks every year. But lately that has not been happening because I've been selfishly sweater knitting for me. So I'm trying to think of other things that I can do that would be welcome. And right now I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of dishcloths because I feel like it's a useful gift and quick and easy so that when I start panicking on December 1st that I haven't knit anything for anybody, I can whip a bunch of them out. That's my plan.
I think that my history of giving to people would show that sweaters would be my go-to, but I think more realistically, I think scarves or hats would be an ideal choice just because most people like them and they're quick knits.
Yeah, I love making hats. I love making them. They're so quick. I have kind of a vanilla hat formula that I've made up over the years, and I really like doing that because I can either extend the ribbing to have like the brim flip up or maybe do like a stitch pattern on the body or just keep it plain stockinette.
I also do mainly hats, but I've like over the years I've realized that my family, who I usually just knit for, don't really wear hats. Like I wear hats, but no one in my family does. So I've kind of like when I do, which I don't knit for, kind of like Jen, I haven't knit for people for a while, or it's not something I usually do. But anyway, I do cowls a lot, or little scarf, or little like handkerchief, like scarfettes type thing, because those seem to get worn more than hats, which is a sad thing because hats are great.
Yeah, hats are great.
Yeah, right?
I will third that. I also think hats are great. I also kind of wear hats a bit more than a lot of people in my family, but I have knit hats for my brothers and my partner and my in-laws, and I've definitely knit some like scarves and cowls for a few people in my family. I'm not like a every year gift knitter though. I've been knitting for like 20 years and like 10 of that or more maybe was knitting was my full-time job. So I didn't really have time to also knit gifts. I had to knit for work. I couldn't really knit gifts on top of that. So I've just knit kind of a handful of gifts over the years, but definitely accessories, like wearable accessories.
Hats are also my sort of first choice for like a gift, but my mom has horses, so she's always saying she could never have too many barn hats. So that makes it very easy. And then most of my friends are very outdoorsy, and like giving a wool hat to a hiker is like a great way to delight someone. Which brings me to my next question. When you knit gifts, do you do all easy care yarn like acrylics and superwash wool, or do you just choose what you think is best for the project? Use some natural wool, maybe some luxury fibers.
I'm wool obsessed, so I want everything to be out of wool, whether they want wool or not. Although with my dishcloth plan, I'm thinking I should probably use cotton.
That's probably a good plan.
I definitely try and think about whether or not they're going to actually take the time to wash it properly. So I try to gear towards easier things to wash, either like, cotton or superwash wool, if that is going to be something that I can just be like, yeah, you can wash this in, the washer if you want, just to make it easier for them in the end.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everyone doing an easy care where all you have to do is say, like, if it's superwash, you can even throw it in your washing machine. It's easy to give a gift that they don't really have to pay much attention to taking care of it, But I have given some gifts made out of luxury fibers and stuff And so what I've done with those is I've saved one of the ball bands of the yarn and kind of wrote a generic description of what it was, what the project was, because if I write the pattern, they're not really going to know what that means. So I'll just write like a pink cowl, and then the washing instructions is on that ball band, so then they could keep that with them as well.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
I usually, to be honest, the last few years, the only person I've really knit a gift for that I can think off the top of my head is my mom, who's also a crafter. So she is pretty aware of different fibers. So I try to find like a really special like luxury blend. Like I remember a few years ago, I was doing like Capra cowls and hats and Muse and things like that. But what I have done is given little samples of wool wash, like soak, with the project. So that's always fun. But if it's for like my sister or any of her kids or anything, I usually just do more superwash type stuff.
Yeah, I also have made most of my gifts with superwash wool or like wool acrylic blends that are machine washable. So a little bit of wool, but like mostly acrylic. Also made a lot of gifts out of recycled cotton, which I really like using, which you make by unraveling thrifted sweaters. And if you find like a really soft cotton sweater at a thrift store, then that's going to make a really soft cotton yarn when you unravel it. So I've made like hats out of recycled cotton.
It sounds very, very like nice to feel. Cotton's one of those fibers that gets nicer the older it is. So like unraveling an existing sweater has got to be like the softest.
Yeah.
For my family, if I'm knitting them gifts, like I got brought up in a very woolly household, so like I can use whatever fiber I feel like if I'm knitting something for my mom or my sister. But for my friends, I usually stick to superwash because a lot of them probably would make the effort, but I don't know if their partners would. I've knit things for friends that accidentally went through the wash through no fault of my friends. So now I try to stick to superwash when I'm knitting gifts for people outside my immediate family. But I also like, before I quit doing it, if I did knit them something with natural wool, I liked to give them those little sachets of wool wash that we sell so that they can take care of their project if they don't have wool wash on hand at their home. Like if it's something like a hat, you only need to wash it like once a year or something. So a couple little sachets is like perfect to give with a gift.
Yeah, I've also given away the wash for the few projects that would be would require it. So it's a good idea.
So, what is the best gift you've ever knit? Do you have any real standout pieces?
So I used to make socks, and everybody loved getting them, but they take so much time. And sees my love of sweaters for myself. But last year or the year before, I can't remember which, I got this Star Wars knitting book, and I made a couple of pieces out of that. And my family is huge Star Wars fanatics, so the hat. I think it had TIE fighters on it. And then there was a mitt set that I gave to someone else, and those were huge hits. So I keep thinking I need to go back and knit something else out of the book because I feel like I can make more hats or whatever. But you know, that would cut into my sweater knitting time.
Selfish knitting. That's what I like.
Totally.
It wasn't like the most amazing project, but I think the response from the person who got it, I made my mom a cardigan last year for her birthday / Christmas. And I think every single time I go visit her, she always talks about how much she wears it and how much she loves it. So I think that's pretty great.
That's so sweet. My mom does the same thing with anything I give her. She just is always like talking about how much she loves it.
Yeah.
My favorite is actually something I made for my dad. He's a really big Miami Dolphins fan. And so several years ago, I made him a scarf with their blue and orange colors. And then every row in blue was a point for the Dolphins, and every row in orange was the opponent. And I was thinking for that year doing it for their season, but I didn't want to gamble and have this scarf if they had a really bad season. And so, And so I went to their perfect season where they went undefeated in 1972. And I looked that up so I can reference it. That was the year that I did. And he loves it. He's obsessed with it. He tells everybody that his daughter made it, and he will send me pictures if he's out like blow drying the driveway of him like completely wrapped up around in this scarf. So, and I made it like right in front of him for weeks, and he just didn't even notice. It didn't compute, and then on Christmas, ta-da!
That's amazing.
That's
I love
very
that
sweet.
story.
Yeah.
The best gift I ever knit was actually for my grandmother. So this was about, I think it was might even be before I started working at knitpicks, but it was a long time ago, and I learned to knit, and I was very excited. And she crocheted for me and my family and all her grandkids. We always got like 2 crocheted blankets, like these amazing blankets. So I wanted to make her a blanket. So I knit just a pretty simple garter stitch log cabin blanket. I picked out, really nice colors that went in her house. And anyway, she loved it. She thought it was the best thing ever. And then she passed away about 10 years ago. And my family wanted to make sure that I got that blanket back because I spent so much time with it and how much she loved it so much. So that was my favorite gift. So
It's very sweet that you got it back.
yeah, it was just like, it's just in my cupboard. It's not one that I use a lot, but it does have like really nice memories to it. So
I think my best gifts have been when I've kind of asked the recipient exactly what they want, and I've made them something that they have like some part in. So then it gets worn the most that way. So there's when I first started knitting crocheting in college, and I was actually crocheting a bit more than I was knitting at first. I asked my brothers all what they wanted, and one of my brothers wanted a really simple black beanie with like a red stripe or something, and it was like the most basic thing, but it was exactly what he wanted, and he wore that hat all the time for years and years. So that was nice. That was encouraging as an early crafter, just getting started. And then there's another one that my husband and I went to the UK, and he picked out some Harris tweed yarn that for like me to make something with him with it. So the yarn was picked out by him, and then I made him a hat with like a bill, like kind of like a newsboy hat, but not exactly. That's not what it's like. I don't know. It's like a beanie with a bill. Anyway, because that's what he wanted, and it's like very, very, very warm. So he only wears it a couple times a year, but like whenever it's cold, he breaks it out and wears it. And I feel like those are kind of the most appreciated, or when like the person kind of just tells you what they want,
Definitely. My own best gift wasn't a Christmas present. It was a baby shower present for one of my friends from college. I knit a sweater, just a basic top-down raglan, but I made it a wrap sweater with like cuffable sleeves for her baby, and I'm very proud that she got 2 winters out of it, because like it's hard to make an adaptable baby sweater where they can wear it for that long in their life, because they grow so fast. And her daughter is not a short kid, so I'm like very proud that I nailed it.
Good job.
That's probably one of the best gifts I think I've made. She sends me pictures of her wearing it, and just like seeing like the sleeves get uncuffed and the wrap being a little like looser, and like it's very nice that it worked out so well. So those were the best of our gift knitting. Do you guys have any less than successful gift knittings that have stuck out in your memory?
It ended up being a well-received gift, but one year I overextended how many projects I thought that I could actually make, and I decided to make everybody felted slippers, and many people got a slipper and some balls of yarn. And I finished everything after Christmas, but there were several family members that opened their box and they were very confused because they are not crafty and had no idea what they were going to do with yarn.
Need a little IOU card in there.
Yeah, I've done that as well. That haunts you if you give people IOUs and then you don't follow through, which sometimes I don't. because they're constantly pulling that IOU out, and then you feel bad. It's better just to not say that you're going to give things. Just knit for yourself.
Jen, that's the opposite of what this podcast is about.
I know it. I love my family, but sweaters.
Fair enough.
I think, being honest, I haven't really done enough gift knitting to have a bad experience yet. So I'm just gonna mosey on past this question.
Regan saying he has no failures. Alena.
That is not what I'm saying.
I'll say it.
His failures are private. They are not given to people.
I would say I've definitely had a situation like Jen where I didn't finish the project, and I think I even wrapped it with it like on the needles still. And I think it was for a member of my immediate family, so I was able to finish it like the next day or two. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but still, they thought it was hilarious when they opened it up and they were like, why is this knitting needle in this? But I think if I had any other like fails beyond that, I wouldn't want to know. Like if I made something for someone and they didn't use it or they didn't wear it or didn't really like it all that much, I don't want to know. So I put like work into it. Like I use some of my precious yarn to make you that. Like don't tell me if you don't like it, because in my mind you like it and I'm okay with living in that delusion.
I've got the same kind of thing because I don't know of anything off the top of my head that has been like an obvious fail in the moment. It's been more like, oh, so I made that, but I've never seen them wear it. I made that hat. And then I'd hear, oh, it's not cold enough to wear hats here, or not really wearing hats very often. So it's not that I'm backing up Jen on her selfish knitting, but I guess kind of why
back me.
I haven't just been I just don't usually knit for gifts for my immediate family. I'll knit it for friends and I'll knit them for my mom, but mainly it's just like, well, they don't really want one. So I will just not do it. So same kind of thing as what Alena said. I just don't want to know if it's like a bad gift.
Yeah, I definitely have some of those too that like, I don't know if they ever really wear that. But the only one I could think of that it wasn't a total failure, but it was having to do with like not getting it done on time. And I was going to make a pair of fingerless mitts for my brother, but this was when I knit for my job and I just like kind of kept putting them on hold. So I ended up like knitting one of the fingerless mitts and then like putting the project on hold for like a while and then getting stressed out about like, oh, I need to finish that for my brother. Because I think the season was changing and I was like, I have to do it fast. So I knit the second one a few months later. I don't know what happened. Like my brain was in different spots, but the two ended up like kind of significantly different sizes. Like the gauge, like my gauge was way tighter, I think, on my second one because I was in a hurry to finish it. So when I put them on my hands, like they kind of look the same, but when you put them on your hands, it's like one was like, more tightly fitted and the other one was more loose. You can tell when you're wearing them. So I was like, okay, I'm not re-knitting another one again. I just gave them to him, but I didn't know how much that would bother him. I have a feeling he probably didn't wear them very much. Oops.
The reason why I asked this question was because I had a failure that was so bad it didn't even get gifted. Before I settled into just making hats for gifts and like almost nothing else, I tried to knit my mom a pair of slipper socks for Christmas one year. And it was like, I had only been knitting for like 4 years or so, and I was not very good at picking patterns. And the pattern I selected was the kind that like said like knit until 2 inches from your toes.
Mm-hmm.
All the measurements were like based on measuring your own foot. My mom wears a unusual shoe size. So I was just like trying to guess. She wears a women's 10.5, which like not a very common shoe size, often left off of measurement tables altogether. So like I was trying to guess how long that should be. And it just it went horribly. They were so long and floppy, and I brought them to my parents' house, and I like held it up against one of my mom's shoes, and it was like a full inch longer than the shoe. And I was just like, I'm gonna just take these apart and turn them into a hat. That's what I did. I knit a hat very quickly in the guest bedroom. And I learned not to try to guess on measurements.
It's probably a solid plan. Alena, while you were talking, was holding up her guide for for sock measurements. So
yeah, it's my socks ruler by Trinkles that we have on the site, and I made socks for all of my immediate family last year, and this was amazing because it has the inches, it has the centimeters, but then also the like where the US women's shoe size would fall and the men's and then the European shoe sizes. So all that information is there. So if I knew like 10.5, then I could just kind of follow the guide over and see what that would be like in inches. So definitely highly recommend if you're a sock knitter.
Yes.
And a sock gifter especially.
That would have solved a lot of the problems I had.
We will put a link to that in the show notes.
Do you guys have any gift knitting traditions? It sounds like we're all kind of intermittent gift knitters, not consistent ones.
I used to be better, but you know.
I'm the same.
I think
same.
Well, and I think that like you guys, you make stuff for people, and then if you don't see them wear it, then you think, well, do I need to make them another thing, or should I make something else for me, who I know will wear the thing?
It's all about you.
It is all about me. Although I do genuinely feel bad because I have several family members that every year at Christmas say, am I going to get socks this year? And most years they don't. So I should start making socks again. And I should get the Katrinkles ruler, because that would be super helpful for me. Maybe it would make me feel bad so that I would make some socks.
Guilt knitting. Socks are a big commitment. I couldn't imagine knitting socks for one person for a gift, let alone personally.
I ran the numbers once on like a pair of hand knit socks versus a worsted weight sweater. And like a worsted weight sweater can, if it's like a fitted one, it can be close to the equivalent number of stitches knit as 3 socks.
Really?
Yeah. Because the gauge is so different.
Yeah.
Is that
makes
3
sense.
socks or 3 pairs of socks?
3 socks. Because if you have like a 90 stitch sock.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now I'm a very committed sweater knitter because of that. But hats are pretty fast. I was an annual hat knitter. Like my sister and my mom used to get a different hat every year. But then after a while, I'm like, I've been knitting 20 years now. They don't need 20 hats. So I kind of have eased off. And now it's like every other year they get a new hat because it just feels like overboard to give them so many hats every time. I should probably just add some other gift categories to my repertoire, but
I'm kind of the same way with my mom and cowls because she likes cowls. So, but she doesn't need 20 cowls. So I try to wait until I have like a really special yarn that I want to show off to her that I know she would love to wear when she's walking her dogs. So no real tradition for me either.
I think it's become more situation based than just doing it for the sake of doing it. Yeah.
I've definitely transitioned to trying to do something hand sewn or handmade in a different way, not knit every year. So a few years ago, I did like a hand sewn oven mitt for everybody in my family, and then like a hand sewn bowl cozy for everybody. It was a fun one. It can be really personalized, and also it's like very easy to make. So
I did that too. The silk cozies are great.
A lot quicker than knitting anything, quicker even than a dishcloth.
well, I don't want to get into what people are knitting for gifts this year if you're doing gift knitting, because like sometimes our family members listen to this podcast. But if you were to knit some last minute gifts this year, what patterns would you guys be using?
So we have a kitchen towel set on the site that I'm completely drawing a blank on the name of right now. And it's mostly the yarn that I really love how the yarn looks. But really, I think dishcloths are great because you can, sort of sample knit different stitch patterns to try it out to see if you even like it. I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of the pattern.
Is it the one that's in Dishy Twist yarn?
Yes, that one.
Yeah, the Dishy Twist looks really great in a simple dish towel or dishcloth with minimal patterning. It's just gonna make it look great without any.
Yeah,
effort.
and I feel like it looks like an amazing gift, and it's something that you want people to use. And if they wreck it, that's fine. You can make them another one. I just love the idea of it being, sort of green and earth friendly, and then I don't feel bad when they destroy it, and I have a reason to make another, and yet it takes me very little time, which they don't have to know.
Talking about all these hats, we have the Big Cozy, which is a pattern that uses alla prima. So it's a very quick hat that uses, I think, only one hank of alla prima. So it's kind of like a great last minute gift if you need to do something.
And so many colors to choose from.
With all the solids now too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking at patterns from the recent Deja Yarn collection.
Yay.
Yeah, with all
Please
of them
knit those.
yeah, especially with them being stash busters and kind of designed to use up the random skein or two of yarn from your selfish knitting. I actually just finished the leading lines mitts for myself, and I really enjoyed making those. So I'm like, maybe I'll make another pair, or maybe I'll make something else from that collection.
Well, we have a whole section of patterns called 12 Weeks of Gifting on the site that are free patterns, including patterns by me and by Lee. In fact, one that just came out when this podcast goes up is my, to go along with Jen's dishcloth and dish towel, is the mitered, oh my gosh, I can't remember, ridged miter striped dishcloth and dish towel and dishcloths. So that's a fun one. That's a quick one to knit. But what I was going to say was my favorite pattern almost of all time is the pain hat. I have knit so many versions of that hat. And in fact, if you look at we'll link it in the show notes. I think I knit all of the samples that are on the model on the pattern page. But that's a quick knit for me. And I get to use like my favorite yarns like Twill and High Desert, and it's that's Alena's.
Yeah, everybody is very well aware I am very obsessed with High Desert. So if you get a gift from me in High Desert, then that's like extra special because I used my High Desert stash for you. Anyway, Stacey.
No, it's fine. But it goes along with that. It's like it's a pleasure to knit with, and then I get to give a beautiful gift. So it's the best of both worlds.
Well, I'm just gonna go off of that and plug some of my own patterns because
hey, I did
the final 12 weeks pattern, which I think won't quite be out by the time this podcast airs, but it'll be soon. Will be a super bulky hat, so that's gonna be super quick to knit. And one of the earlier patterns was my warm winter hood pattern, which it's a little bit of a larger accessory because it's a hood and a cowl, but it is in bulky yarn. It's in Wool of the Andes bulky or Wool of the Andes superwash bulky, or if you want to use a superwash for a gift. That'll work too.
I bet you can use Swish and it's even softer.
Swish bulky, superwash, and softer. You totally could do that. Yeah, it's I mean, I'm biased. I think it's a really fun knit. It's like garter stitch with slip stitch, kind of vertical stripes. So it's very easy stitch pattern, but it looks cool. Also, the pop hat and swish pops. If you're knitting a gift for someone who likes bright, colorful things, we have a bunch of new swish pops colors. And any colorway you choose in swish pops is going to pool in a different fun way in the pop hat pattern. It's designed for planned pooling. So that'd be a fun one. I also have an old free pattern on the website called Snow Day Headband, which is in Fable Fur, which is like a super bulky faux fur, very quick knit. And it's like a fun accessory for someone who spends time in the snow. Maybe it's like a very warm headband. And I have another recent pattern trio called the Tweety Trio from the Stay In and Knit collection, which is 3 small cabled home decor items. So there's a mason jar cozy and a coaster and a trivet. So a set of all 3 of those, or just one if you're just wanting to be extra quick. And it's designed in Brava tweed, so it's machine washable. So it's kind of designed for gift knitting.
Well, I didn't know we were going to be promoting all of our patterns. I'm gonna start.
I design a lot of small, quick things that make good gifts. Those are all pretty recent, except for the Snow Day headband. That was old, but it's super quick.
I've had way too many times where I'm like, I'm not knitting gifts this year. I'm not doing it. And then literally Christmas Eve, I'm just like, oh, I should have knit gifts. And then I try to like crank them out that night. So I always have my eye on I've successfully done it many times. It's not good for your hands though. It's bad for your hands. No. But I always have my eye on like super bulky patterns. So that could be an option for. I knit the Leniferous cap by Stacey last year, and it like I think it took like 3 hours. It was like a movie like knitting project because it's the version I knit was using Alla Prima and Tough Puff, and it's just like a very simple beanie, and it goes so fast, and you just top it with a huge pom-pom, and it looks much more fancy than it is, especially if you use Alla Prima.
Yeah.
So that one's definitely on my list of like panic knitting for gifts, because like you can actually do it. If you need to make 2, you can do 2 in one night. It's just you might be up a little late. It's a great pattern for that. I also had my eye on the Extra Bold Coffee Beanie by Callie Reedy, because it's another super bulky beanie. This one has like a little bit more texture to it with like a rib stitch pattern, but like so fast to knit.
Yeah, I think I actually made the sample of that in Alla Prima that's on the website, and it took me like maybe 2 hours.
Yeah. Definitely, Alla Prima patterns are a great choice for very last minute knitting because it's fast and it's incredibly soft, and like the dye colors make it look like a little fancier than just a super speedy. But I think I might pick up some fluff of the Andes to play with for like last minute gifts, because like it's a very nice yarn to work with and a little less pricey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have anything else to add about gift knitting that you think our listeners should consider when they're picking their projects?
Well, I have these other patterns that I want to talk about.
Do tell.
No, I'm just kidding. Just wanted to tease Lee a little bit. Because Lee is the queen of having last minute knits, like small projects. So I think all of Lee's patterns are great to use for last minute knits. We're just giving love to everybody here.
Yeah.
It's the holidays, man.
It's giving season.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you, Jen, Regan, and Alena, for joining us to talk about gifts.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
I agree. Thank you.
And happy holidays. This podcast was originally created by Kelly Petkin.
It is produced and hosted by me, Lee Meredith, and Stacey Winklepluck.
Produced by Andy Satterlund, with additional production and editing by Chase Ryan.
Special thanks to Jen, Alena, and Regan for joining us today.
We recorded this episode in the Pacific Northwest, where we're taking a month off the podcast to finish all our gift knitting. We'll be back in mid-January.
From everyone here at knitpicks, thank you for joining us.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual participants. They do not necessarily reflect the opinions or views of the Crafts Group LLC or Premier Needle Arts.
All the yarn, tools, and patterns mentioned in this episode, along with all the inspiration a knitter could need, can be found on our website at knitpicks.com.
If you'd like to be on our podcast, leave us a voicemail. We'll be checking it regularly and using your calls in later episodes. To leave a voicemail, call 360-334-4847 and record your message. You can also record a voice memo on your phone and email us that audio file at podcast@knitpicks.com.
Like and follow us on your favorite social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube at knitpicks.
Rate and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
Until next time, happy crafting!
Happy New Year!